check, 1, 2. Mike Seaver, Mike Tyson. Check. All right, let's do this. Welcome back. It is Trail Finder 2 time again. And you are looking at this unmistakable 1987 Toyota Xtra cab. And this is a specimen, I will say. Just a gorgeous truck. This comes as an RTR from RC4WD, but as you can see, I've gone a little bit further in customization on this guy. So if you're interested in what all I've done to this as far as scale details, lighting, electronics, tuning, and of course, a little demo on vinyl graphic install, stay tuned. Figured I'd give you a quick shot of the rear end of this baby before we got into the breakdown. And I must say, this truck is gorgeous from any and every vantage point. Just phenomenal. So another thing I want to do before we get started is put up on screen a few shots of this stock truck kind of out of the box so you can see where we came from to where we are now. So as you can see, no glossy stickers. We're riding quite a bit lower and no bright chrome rims. But beyond that, there has been a lot. So we're going to start at the exterior. That seems logical. So let's flip to the front end and start there. Starting at the front end here, got a few little goodies added on. The first most obvious would be this super sweet steel push bar. So this is the CC hand version. I'll show a shot of that. Pretty beefy, pretty hefty, heavy guy. So I've complemented that with these RC4WD licensed IPF lights. And I will say those are pretty flimsy for the cost, but anyways, they're licensed. And then the thing hiding under there, I'm sure you saw on the rear already. I'm in Austin, so of course this is a Texas truck. 87 Xtra seemed like a great vanity plate for this guy. Those are from RC Plate Shop, as well as this Texas Trail Pass. And then the 1222 registration, that's off the Crawler Innovations sticker sheets, which is cool. I can always get my trucks registered. And then the last little goodie up here, let's see if I can get it in the light. I swapped out the black Toyota on the chrome back metal emblem for this chrome Toyota on the black backing. So that works so much better on this blacked out grille that comes with the truck. So I think that really just kicks up the front end to another level, kind of stalker, kind of 80s appropriate. And then I've got that push bar on the RC4WD aluminum bumper mount there for a little more holding power, since that is a heavy bumper. So I think the only thing we really haven't gotten into on the front end would be looking under the hood. So let's do that. All right, nice tight shot here under the hood, but before I get into it, I'm going to run through a few process shots. So as you can see, I added the dress-up kit for this engine, and so that gives you all the cool little wires, a couple more little tidbit components, and then I added a little bit of paint detail and a little grime to my air filter there for a little reality. But all in all, nice clean engine bay with just a little effort. You get a lot of detail out of it. So super cool right there. I even got some stickers on the underside of the hood. You can't get any more realistic than that. So just an awesome job, RC4WD. All right, moving on from the front end, I've got a little overhead shot to get a good view of these full-length steel sliders. So these are from RC4WD. They are Tough Armor. And they look fantastic. Going to provide a good amount of protection there. I wish they were tucked up a little higher, but I think they're gonna be worth it to protect this beautiful body. And speaking of protecting this beautiful body, got another piece of RC four-wheel drive tough armor on the rear. So you can see nice and tucked with this tube bumper, except for, as you can see, that receiver hitch. That's the low-hanging fruit. Unfortunately, it's welded, not attached. So besides cutting it off, it is there. And then of course I've got the King Kong toe shackles on here to complement that. But other than the vinyl, which we're gonna get into in a little more detail further down in the video, that's basically the exterior, minus a few little scale stickers here, the classic Toyota. And then, hey, what is this guy? Got this unassuming 3D printed toolbox in the back. Well, let me show you the install photos, and then I think you'll figure out real quick what this is. So isn't that awesome when you get a scale detail that doubles as a functional item? So we've got a nice little storage compartment for a battery, and as you saw, we've got the plug poking up through there to plug in. So super nice. Anybody that owns an RC four-wheel drive vehicle knows the hassle is getting the body on and off with these two screws on each side. So that kind of eliminates that as far as usage. You can plug and unplug your battery. You do raise your CG just a hair, but I've still got the option on the tray to run the low battery and the stock position. So either or, if you want a quick grab and go, it's super nice to not have to take this body on and off, trust me. So I think without further delay, let's actually get this body off, take a look underneath and see what I did as far as tuning, wheels, tires, suspension, motor, everything. However, before we do that, I figured it'd be a good time with the body weight on there to look at the stance of the truck kind of as it sits before we talk about what I did. So in the front, you can see there's a little down travel from where it just wants to naturally sit. And then the rear, we've got a little bit more down travel. So not bad at all. So let's look at the flex here. So I've got a little blade holder, makes a good stand. So I believe we can get a little more than that. Let's get under here with the battery. So are we teetering? Can we settle that in? So that looks like probably the extreme right there, which is not bad when you consider this is a leaf spring truck. So pretty good articulation there. No extremely long shocks or anything. So I think without further delay, let's get this body off and take a look at what I did. Okay, nice wide shot of the chassis. And I will say before we get going, one thing I love about these new RTRs is that they're providing the inner fenders. That said, you're gonna have to do a heck of a lot of trimming on this inner lip, inner edge. It's got a huge turn up on the front and the rear. And you want a little flex to them because you kind of need that, getting that body on and off. But man, they fit super tight. It's great that they're Lexan, so you can trim them to fit, so it's no problem at all. So moving on to, I guess, the first steps here in suspension. So front and rear, I took out the medium and small leaf. So you can see that just opens up worlds of movement here in these. So you can always put those back if these big leaves start getting soft on you, breaking in. So it's always a good idea to keep those guys on hand, and you can tune as you break things in. Let's see, second, I guess I started adjusting kind of some geometry of the axles and the shackle mounts. So in the rear, I'm trying a new product back here. Let's see if I can get this on camera. I'll show some shots of it as well. Let's see, there's a little bone right here, if you can see that. That's because this is an aluminum mount from Bauhaus. So that slightly changes the angle from stock. And I believe the purpose of that is to keep your leaf from flattening and reversing potentially on extreme compression. So I haven't tried it before, just gonna give it a day in court. Just since I'm so soft in the rear, I'm getting pretty flat with these leaves, so I figured it might not be a bad thing to have. Another thing I added to this rear axle to help with those leaves, especially being soft, is this anti-wrap bar. And that's something I use a lot, and especially if you're putting brushless power through these guys, but it keeps this axle from twisting up these leaves, just holds it static, but lets everything flex and pivot. And while we're under here, we can take another look here at a look at another Bauhaus product. So it's another new one to me, but I'm using their high tuck skid for the long wheelbase. So it comes with the carrier bearing member, and then it comes with a bearing if you so, request it, and I did. So that's super convenient. Just watch your alignment of shafts when you're getting this guy in, kind of leave everything loose. Make sure everything's spinning before you tighten them up, but not a hard install at all, but you can see the result. It just disappears there. So gets rid of that stock shovel. So that is super nice right there. And then moving to the front here, something similar but different. So this is something I do a lot. It's moving this static mount up here to the front. So this is the leaf spring reversal kit here. So you've got the pivot now at the rear. So what that means is now your axle moves back when you flex down. So you can see it move forward when I flex up. So when you come on an obstacle, it's gonna move back instead of trying to push forward. So a lot more realistic, and that actually moves the axle forward a little bit, but when you flex down, it moves it back. So you really have to watch that right there. So you can see I'm right on it. But it may limit your tire size just a bit, but I like that scale realism right there. So I think suspension-wise, that is it, other than these nice shiny things underneath here. So this started out with some generic yellow shocks, which I wasn't planning on changing until I saw a little puddle of oil on the cardboard this was sitting on during the build. So I went ahead and upgraded to the newest shocks with the X-ring seals and the coated shafts. And then I picked up some black boots, you can see here as well, to cover those shafts. Keep them clean, I'll show a shot of that. But super nice, smooth shocks. Got them filled with 30 weight. And then in the front, you can see they're poking through. I did a little more custom cutting on these fenders, which another good reason to be Lexan fenders, you can mod them. But I'm trying another new part. This is kind of the generic Amazon taller link, Grande link, I guess. But just narrows at the top, and you don't need necessarily a spacer because of the way it mounts. So it's kind of nice. So basically, I think that wraps up the underbelly and the suspension of this guy. I think I may have leaned these maybe to another position in the back to get a little more flex as well. But overall, just very happy with it, how it's sitting. So I guess let's move inside. And pretty simple as well, and I'll show a shot of all the components. So basically gutted it, as you can see. I've got the Fusion SE in here. This is the slower version. And then I decided to try RC4 Drive's Twister Extreme servo. It was on a killer sale, better than the Twister, and why not, So one thing I do want to mention is when I started out with this guy right out of the box, I noticed some scuffing on the pumpkin top, and it was caused by the servo horn actually hitting that right out of the gate from the factory. So this servo repositions the horn a little. It's not as bulky, but I also put some spacers under the mount to lift this guy up. So when I compress down here, let's see if we can see this. I mean, I'm just, if I can get it on camera, I'm just barely missing it, you can see. I mean, it's just about to hit it, but not. So very close clearances there. Again, you could flip this pumpkin to the other side with a little bit of work, removing the axle, not too hard, but I think I've solved it enough for me with the travel that I've got here. So other than that, we've just got the lighting wiring, and you can see that just snakes up the rail. Zip tie that in nice and clean, and then I've got a little extension for their funky plug. And it comes into a cyclical switch from Club 5. And I've hidden that in the box, nice and clean. So again, not much to the inside, keeping it nice and clean. And of course you can run the battery, like I said, right there as normal. So other than that, we just have wheels and tires. These are actually some I've had sitting around, and they've rotated to builds and kind of during builds before I've gotten wheels set. But these are just 1.55 deep dish wagon wheels from RC4 Drive, and the Asian Yoda hubs, and then these are SSD, just the black hubs here. And then the tires, these are actually the Compass MTs that come stock with the Trailfinder 3 Launch Edition. Feel really good. They're that X2, S3 compound, and I've actually overstuffed them with, I think, 4-inch Crawl Innovation dual stage, so they're really, really nice. I had I think the 3.5 foams in here, and they were just super floppy. You know, they just don't have the support in the rubber, but I believe I've got a medium and a firm, or a soft and a medium. I definitely have them staged differently for weight, but that pretty much wraps up the chassis side of it. But I do have a little note as far as engine bay fitment over, especially this motor mount, and a little bit of fender clearancing here. So let me grab the body, because they're always blocked out of view. I always forget, but I think I've been putting these now on all of my Trailfinders. The SSD brass knuckles. So a great way to add a little bit of low weight up front. So that is super nice, but definitely didn't want to forget mentioning those guys. Just beauties right there. Big fan of SSD wheels and their brass products as well. All right, we got both of them out here. So I'm going to start at the chassis. So it's this mount that's coming up off of the transmission right above the spur gear that mounts the motor. So that guy comes up and gets right under the edge, I guess, of the back of the engine tray. So that, as well as the fenders, you can see the Dremel work there, and I'll show some shots a little more precisely. But you can see I really thinned up that firewall to get it to slip over, and then a few key spots to get it to sit on those plastic fenders nice and easily. But it seems like almost every RC4 Drive I have to do a little Dremel work under the engine tray to make it fit no matter what. But just something to be aware of. It's not you, you're not crazy. It's just an insanely tight fit. Let's talk graphics. So out of the box, this guy came with a pretty sick set of stock Toyota graphics. My only issue was that they're stickers. And of course that means they've got glossiness, they've got that clear outer edge that covers things. So as a refresher, let's take a look at some photos kind of mid-build. I've got some different wheels and tires on this thing, kind of testing the stance, but it'll give you a quick refresher on what this guy looked like as the RTR. So not bad. I mean, a good looking graphics package. And I believe this is a stock Toyota graphics package as well. RC4 Drive calls this the clean stripes. Nice vinyl set. And what I like about these is they're double-sided vinyl. They've got paper on the sticky side, and they've got the transparent backer on the face side. So if you've never installed vinyls, it can seem a little daunting. But as you can see, I've got these on here perfectly, and I am very picky and very precise, and things like this make me sweat. I hate doing stickers, and I definitely was nervous the first couple times I installed vinyls, but the method that I use makes it super easy, and now I don't even blink doing it. So we can start kind of at the hood So the first thing you want to do, these come in kind of like just a strip as you saw in that photo. You want to find some defining edges that you're going to install to. So that's the hood here, the hood there. So you can make some measurements. So I kind of found the center point of the hood, tape that off. And you can position this, reposition it all day long. You've got both sides with paper. So you can tape this in place. So that's what you do. You kind of get it taped in place. And what you're going to want to do is tape a hinge point across it. So find somewhere that you're going to peel up to, kind of tape that point. So then when you install, you'll peel this up, take some scissors and cut that backer kind of halfway. Then you can lay down the vinyl and stick it. Then you can do the same process on the other side. You just peel that up, flip the paper out now, and lay that down. So it's taped down and it's stuck down, so the whole time this is not moving. So it's really convenient. So we go to the sides, a very similar process. So first off, trim these up to the fender edges because that is the point of alignment for them. Then you get them on there, and I played with these for a while until I got them where I wanted. Make note, they are different. It's bigger, it's smaller. They fit the fender a little different, as you see, as far as the line. But, same deal. You do the hinge process, lay those down. And then the final step with the door you don't want to forget is you want to razor blade this and then I take like a card or something and take it in the slot and get it to wrap that vinyl into the edge. And you're basically done. And then that really leaves the rear. And that was a bit of a question to me. So what do you do with all good questions? You go to the internet. So I looked up some Toyota graphics, tried to find some old historical photos, and I'll show some of those in a second. But what I found was there's kind of two variations of this graphic. One had the SR5 in the stripe, small with the tip of the stripe at the end. And that's kind of the sticker that RC4 Drive actually includes in this kit as an alternate package. And then the other one I saw was like this with just the SR5 up here, larger. But didn't have an SR5 extra sticker, so I left that on. So that is really the vinyl right there. But Toyota is off-centered, but that's how it looks in the photos. So I'll show a couple of those. So I think that's basically spot on minus the SR5 position to kind of the correct, graphics location. But anyways, I think these just came out great, and I love that there's no clear, that they're all just a single piece of vinyl. They're all matte finish, so just super clean looking here. So if you want to kind of dress up your RTR a little bit, make it stand out from the crowd, picking out a vinyl set that works with it is a good way to go. And of course now I think people are just cutting these on the Crickets and making their own vinyls, so that is super cool as well. Well, I was just about to get a battery in here, turn this guy on, take a look at that slow creep and the lights, but why don't we throw this guy on the scales real quick. All right, not too shabby on the weight. 58 front bias without the battery. I think it dropped to 56 with the battery, so pretty good for a trail truck. So this is probably the largest battery that I've got on hand that'll fit, but it's a 3S. I've also got a couple 2S's that'll fit. So this ought to be super easy now to get going with this guy. So let's just get it plugged up. And I think in the future I'm gonna add some Velcro to the bottom of this and some Velcro to the battery, but I think for now we are good. So battery's in, let's reposition, and then I've got my on-off. Well, let me get my radio on, which by the way, I don't think I mentioned, is a FlySky GT5 is what I'm using here. So now it's just inside of the frame. And then click, and there we are. So super easy, as I said. Back this up a little. Get a little reposition here for the front lights. There we go. So let's get a little headlight action. So then the cyclical switch should give us the IPFs next. Nice. And then we get both of them. So great little switch to have. Use those Club 5 cyclicals a ton, but they're a great way to kind of control your own lighting setup. So super nice. And we've got some rear lights as well. I think I've got the room to navigate. May just have to flip us around here to check these guys out. So not as stunning. We don't have all the lights, and they do not operate as brake lights. May have to dial down that reverse touchiness, but nonetheless, we've got lights all the way around this thing. So just super nice. Set that guy down. I feel like should set us up with something here. Let's just see this slow crawl. A little bit of torque here. Let's just watch this guy, watch this axle move back instead of forward. Look at that, just super nice. Let's just hold it right there. Nice. Look at that, nice grip. Always makes me nervous playing with the big trucks on the table. But man, this is just super nice. Great control. Get a little flex here. Nice creep. Look at that gorgeous body. Just fantastic. So that's basically gonna wrap this guy up, I think. So let me get a little more. Look at that. So these crappy IPFs just burnt out. So no more IPFs. I told you they were kind of shoddy lights, and they just proved it. But popping in some higher quality LEDs into those buckets will not be an issue. But I would say don't waste your money on those crappy little lights there. They kind of look cool, but guess what? I think there's a lot of AliExpress options, way cheaper, that come with some IPF stickers as well. So anyways, I think I'm gonna get the battery out of this, get it turned off. I'm gonna do a little morning session for the IPFs, and we'll come back and wrap this guy up. Well, what do you know, I'm back. Did a quick turn off, turn on, and here they are, and there they went. So yeah, I don't know, maybe these LEDs are not rated for the wattage that they're getting, and the voltage that they're getting. I'll have to check the packaging, but I want to say I've probably got this turned up to 7.4, about a 99.9% on that Fusion SE, because I did put in that Twister Extreme, so I think I'm pushing it a little more. So, you know, unless maybe these are just like straight up 5 to 6 volt LEDs, maybe that's the deal, and they just. Let's try that one more time on camera and see if I'm just crazy. We'll turn it off, turn it on, back on. Oh, they're not coming back for me this time, so maybe they did give up the ghost, but you know, that's how it goes sometimes. You get things complete, you get it all wrapped up, buttoned up, ready to go, and you get a failure. But you know, LEDs are easy enough to fix, so I'm not gonna let that hold me back. Well, here we are at the end of, I would say, a pretty successful build overview, minus the dang old IPF lights. But other than that, I gotta say, it's a pretty dang good looking truck. And I feel like it will perform pretty well with the bias setup, some of that suspension tuning, and that nice brushless motor. I think it's gonna do just fine. But man, I'm just very, very happy with the vinyls. And of course, I don't think I went over any of the kind of the stock goodies, but you get, of course, a full interior here. Didn't do a thing to it because they pretty much knock it out of the park. And it's all kind of glued together as well. And then we come to this beautiful rear end. Take one final look. But of course we get the operable tailgate as well. So that is super cool. So a lot of scale realism in these RC four-wheel drive rigs. I can't get enough of them. And obviously I have plenty of them, but they can be addictive. If you like kind of scale modeling, scale realism, they're right up your alley. They're not going to be super high-end performing rock crawlers, but man, they're going to be head turners, that's for sure. But I want to say thanks for coming along on this overview. I hope you learned something, at least had a good time. But until next time, thanks for watching.